Right, welcome everyone. It is nice to have you into compliance. This is part one, and over the next couple of months, I'm going to be jumping into different compliance areas within eXp, within our business, and it's actually very important to make sure that you remain compliant. So I'm going to do it in a very light-hearted way. Each time I'm going to give you something that's a little light, something that you can implement straight after this particular session, and then I'm going to jump into something that's a little bit more deeper that maybe you really need to take an awareness of it. So in part one, I'm going to be talking about two areas, and the first area is going to be the compliance of communication. All right, so clients, how you communicate with them. Now, the first part is a compliance that is actually, it's really, you have to do it. It's from the PPRA. It's how we actually represent ourselves as far as our qualification status. We've actually seen a number of emails, a number of business cards that go out, and really what it says on it is, hey, my name is, and here's my contact number, my email address, and it stops right there. Now, that, in the eyes of the PPRA, becomes non-compliant. And the reason for it is the individual that you're giving that business card to or sending that email through to, they actually don't know your qualification status. And as per the PPRA, we need to actually adhere to that. So this is what I really want you to start doing after this particular session is I want you to relook at your signatures. These are your email signatures that you send out to clients as well as your business cards. Now, I know that you've probably invested in putting in money into those business cards, but it's more important to remain compliant than to take any form of shortcuts. So what are the key areas that we need to make sure that we add onto our business cards as well as onto the signatures in our email? Well, we're going to keep it simple. And the simple side of it is the first thing out of the gate is you need to declare your qualification status. So there are only three real qualification statuses for the agents within eXp. The first one is, well, if you're an intern, if you're brand new, you haven't done any qualifications, you're still running under a mentor, you're still learning the ropes, you need to make sure that you actually are disclosing that you are a candidate property practitioner in real estate. You're going to see there's a common element with all of them. So the very first one is if you've got no qualifications, which means you haven't written your PDE-4 and passed, you're going to have that particular status as a candidate property practitioner in real estate. So that's the first where you're actually at your qualification. Now, if you do have that little certificate that you got from the PPRA that confirms that you have, in fact, written your PDE-4 and you've passed, well done for you, then you can actually have on your particular status, this is both on emails and your business cards, you can have it to say a professional property practitioner in real estate. Now that actually just elevates you up a little bit, and it's very, very important to have that on your particular cards as well as your signatures, because that is really, it's a recognition, but it's also a requirement. Now the third one is for the few of us that have actually now gone and completed PDE-5. Now PDE-5 is the one that's right at the top, and that one there, you are regarded as a master property practitioner in real estate. So these are the three status as far as your qualification status that you need to declare. Now, there's a lot of them out there that just says, hey, I'm a real estate agent or I'm a realtor. That is non-compliant. We need to make sure that you are sharing with your clients that you're either a candidate, you're either a full status, which is a professional property practitioner, not full status. It is a professional property practitioner, or you're a master property practitioner with the PDE5. So this is the first of the compliance. Now, the signatures on your emails is the quickest and the easiest. And I'm going to please, I'm going to beg with you in a little way. Make sure that straight after you've watched this session, you're making those changes, making sure that you are making those changes to your at expsouthafrica.co.za email address, putting that into your signature so that when you're actually sending out your emails, you're actually remaining compliant on that level. But there's more. There's not just that. There is a few more items that we need to include into it. Because once you've shared your qualification status, well, you also need to say that you're actually registered with the PPRA. It is actually a requirement because there's a number of people out there that are going around thinking they're real estate agents and kind of just saying, well, hey, let's just earn the money. But we want to remain compliant. So you've got that qualification status, and directly below that, you actually just put the simple words, registered with the PPRA. That's all we need to have to make sure that that compliance means that, hey, you are a registered person with the actual PPRA. But here's a question. I'm registered with the PPRA, but is my FFC valid? Well, that brings me to the last component that you need to make sure that you include. And that is your FFC certificate number. You need to make sure that you have that on as well, because that then shows that not only are you either a candidate, a professional, or a master, you're registered with the PPRA, but you hold a valid FFC license. So those are the three components. You need to make sure that just below your name, you have that qualification status, which becomes quite nice because people get to see who you are and what you actually do. Have it that you're registered with the PPRA and you put your FFC certificate number. And just by the way, FFC certificate number always starts with a year. It doesn't start with that 7-digit number. That is your internal reference number. So make sure that it starts with a year. For a lot of us, it's been 2023, but now it's going to be 2026. Now, that's me dating this particular recording. So those are the three elements to remain compliant when you're actually doing the communications and having those interactions with your clients. And this leads me onto more of a serious note. And the reason why it's more of a serious note is because there is an act that we have to follow. Now, this is an act that's not just for real estate agents. This is an act that's actually for everybody within South Africa. What act am I making reference to? Well, it's the POPI Act. And I want to just give you a quick high-level overview of what this POPI Act is all about to make sure that you are remaining compliant. Now, I could go through the entire act in its details, but that's going to take a long time, and ultimately, I think most of you might actually fall asleep. So what I did was, I did read through it. I did go and extract the most important parts of it, just so that each and every one of you can actually understand it at a high level. And I broke it down into 8 key parts. And if you actually follow these 8 key parts, at least as far as the POPI Act, you're going to be remaining compliant and not get yourself into some heaps of trouble, which we don't want. So what is it that I'm actually going to be referring to? So what is the POPI Act? Well, here's a sentence that I extracted out that I'm going to read for you. POPIA sounds like a papaya tree. POPIA was enacted to protect the personal information of individuals and to regulate how organizations handle that information. Now, that's how I was going to start it, by reading that particular line to you. And I just went, man, if I couldn't even get the first sentence out right, how am I going to get this into an easier way? So that's what I did. I actually kind of broke it down into these little components to make it a lot easier for you to actually understand. So 8 of them. Now, what's great about it, in our Slack channel, so in the agent's Slack channel, I'm going to upload a little document. It's a small little PDF document, or it's an image, and it actually has what I'm going to share with you broken down so that you actually can have all of that right in front of you. So the first one, and the first one's actually very straightforward. Be accountable. All right. Any information that you receive from any one of your clients, any bit of personal information, this could be your tenants, sellers, buyers, etc. Any bit of information that you actually collect, be accountable for that information, which means if someone is giving you copies of bank statements, IDs, don't just leave it on the counter at Post-it when you've asked them to scan it in. No, no, no. Make sure that you're accountable with that information. This needs to be secure. So the very first one is be accountable. Remember, you are responsible for that information. The second, collect only what you need. So too often, we actually create a checklist of all these different items that we might need from a particular client. But at that moment in time, we don't need everything. So if we don't need the bank statements because we actually have a client that is a cash client, don't go out and ask for bank statements to go and do any form of verifications or anything like that, unless we're doing FICA, which is going to come up in a future compliance session. Only request what is required. So what is actually required? Well, FICA, that's the basics. Get the ID, get the proof of residence. There's the basics so that you can actually recognize that person down to the natural individual so you can start to do business and trading with them. So the second one, only collect what you need. Don't go and ask for all of the actual documents because that's just going to put more responsibility on yourself. The third one here is, when we're going through, we're getting information, we're getting names, we're getting ID numbers, we're also getting telephone numbers, we're also getting email addresses. And then suddenly we go, hey, I'm going to chuck them into that newsletter that I send out every single day to make sure that I don't only stay top of mind, I actually stay top of the mouth, that they're talking about me. So I'm going to spam them all the time. No, wait a minute, you can't do that. You see, the third one is you have to get clear consent. So if you're getting their number, you need to get consent from them that you can carry on with the conversation. If you've got their number, you need to get clear consent that you can continue to WhatsApp them with information that's outside of the current negotiations. If you have the email address, you need to get consent to start spamming them. We don't want to spam it. No. You need to get consent that you can continue any form of marketing. That is the key. When you're actually receiving the information, and many times we get a lot of information, and we have those names, numbers, and email addresses. If you want to continue that conversation in a marketing context, you need to make sure that you've got some level of actual consent. On an email, must be something where they've opt-in or double opt-in, where they've confirmed the email address. If it's something on a WhatsApp or messaging, you need to have something where they said, hey, absolutely, you can carry on with all of that. It is so important to make sure that you have that consent so that if anybody reports you, you've got the evidence to say, hey, but wait a minute. Back in August of 23, you actually said that I could contact you because that's when you initially subscribed. So make sure that you do keep all of that. So that's the third one. The fourth one is protecting that data. And protecting that data is making sure that any files, any information that you're actually saving of theirs is safe and secure. So let's have a look at the basics. You get a name and a contact number. Now, for many of us, name and a contact number goes into our phone. That's great. But what security levels do you have on your phone? What security levels do you have that will prevent somebody from actually accessing the database of your phone? What security levels have you got to protect the data of your clients? That's such an important factor. So if you're scanning things in and you're saving them on your computer, what protection do you have to prevent somebody accessing your computer to access that data? You need to make sure that you've got measures in place to prevent anybody from just accessing. So if you've got a laptop and you have forgotten to put a password. In other words, you just turn it on and it goes straight in. That's non-compliant. Add a password, add some form of security verification to protect that data. Remember, it's your responsibility. If it gets leaked and breached and stolen, it can come back onto you. On your phone, don't just have it where you swipe up and say, there we go, I've got all my contacts. Make sure that you've got levels of security to protect it. Because, well, would you like your data to be shared and stolen and basically put out into the universe for anybody to make contact with you? The fifth one that I want to share with you is respecting your client's rights. And respecting their rights is if you have a client that makes contact with you, and it is in the Act, if they make contact with you and they suddenly say, hey, by the way, could you just share with me what data you actually have on me? Part of the Act states that within 30 days, you have to respond, no costs. So if you've taken something and you've put it into a storage and you're paying a monthly fee, and to extract it, it's costing you X amount, within 30 days, if they put a request to say, hey, by the way, what information have you got about me? You cannot charge them, but within 30 days, you have to respond. As well as if that particular client says to you, hey, please remove me from your database. You have to respect that. You cannot just say, no problem. I am going to pause you and put you over here, and in 3 months' time, I'll try it again. You have to respect your client's rights, because without that, you're going to find that you're actually going against the Act. The sixth one, and we're getting there. We got 3 left after this. So the sixth one is limiting the sharing. Now, what do we mean by limiting sharing? Well, we're real estate agents. We get in those data, and then what we need to do is, well, we need to find out, hey, you need to get a bond. Let's quickly share this information with the bond originator. Hey, we're going to deal with an attorney. Let's share this information with a bond attorney. Hey, we're going to deal with a maintenance man. Let's just share this information. No, you can't do that. What you actually have to do, remember, we have to go back to number 3, which is saying get clear consent. Hey, by the way, I see that you're looking for a property, and I have a bond originator. Can I share, getting consent, can I share your details? And I'm only going to share your name, your number, contact number with XYZ of XYZ origination. You've got to get their consent, but you've got to limit the sharing as well. You don't go ahead and say, oh, I'm just going to share details, and you share everything, which includes all non-related data. You've got to be careful on what you share with the third parties. But remember, clause 3 comes in. You've got to get that consent. You can't just share it with them and they get a random phone call that comes in. That goes against the Act. Then the 7th one is it's keeping data for as long as required. Okay, now we do have requirements within our particular industry that we need to keep our data. Some it's between 3 years, some it's between 5 years, so that we have a record on place. But once that expires, it needs to be destroyed and deleted so that nobody can get hold of it and then start to expose the information. Plus, if it's something whereby, and I know for many of us, we're going, but this is my clients. If you're saving any form of data on any form of device, you have to delete or destroy once it's not required. So if you're never going to contact that client ever again, you have to delete it as part of the Act. But if, and this is a good agent, if you're going to continue building that relationship, well, that is needed, and you can continue those communications with them. So remember, when it comes to the expiry date of when it's required and when it's needed, it is your obligation to actually have that information deleted, disposed, and destroyed so that it cannot fall into the hands of somebody else. And the last one, and this is the one that really is extremely important because this takes your integrity to the next level. This is, well, it's number 8. You need to report breaches. You will actually see across the internet, suddenly there is news articles that go out. This particular company has a breach. And the company, what do? They send out a notification. They send out a notification, say, hey, by the way, we know that we have been breached. This has been done, but this is what we're putting in place. The same has to happen with you. If you find that you've been breached in any particular way, you have to notify your particular clients. You have to go through this particular process to say, I did have these measures in place. I was breached. The information was stolen. And now you're actually what you're doing to have that corrected. It's important that when the breach happens, you report it, because we want to be integral. No, it's not integral. We want to have integrity. There's the word that was coming out. I know that a couple of letters left, right, in the center. We need to have the integrity to be honest. Remember, we've got the important information, and we want to make sure that when we have that information, that we're going to be responsible for that information. And if it happens to fall into the hands of somebody else, we want to have that integrity to say, hey, this is what happened, and we can actually notify it. Now, there's a quote that I want to finish off today's session, and it's a tip that I've actually got for you. Think of POPI Act. Think of POPI Act as a trust insurance. Man, these words that come out on my screen. I'm going to redo that and probably cut this out at the end, rehash all of it. So here's a tip for the day, and it just shows how authentic I am. I make errors, of course I do, but I'm also reading without my glasses, and I haven't read it 15 times as well. So here's the tip of the day for you agents. Think of POPI Act as trust insurance. The easier you make it for your clients to feel safe, the stronger your reputation and your business will be. Let me reread that to make sure that it came across clearly. Think of POPI Act as trust insurance. The easier you make it for your clients to feel, the stronger your reputation and your business will be. We can actually put that into an advert. Just imagine somebody standing on the top of a hill. They've got a safe next to them. They've got their arm on the safe, and then this background voice comes over them and says, think of POPI Act as trusted insurance. The easiest way to make your clients feel safe, the stronger your reputation and your business will be. Oh, I just like that. That was just to add some kind of humor into all of that there. So this was part one. This was something which is so important. It's all about communication. So remember, that little signature, that little business card, we need to make sure that it remains compliant. Make sure that you've got your qualification status inside of there. So candidate, professional property practitioner, master property practitioner in real estate. Make sure that it includes the words registered with the PPRA, because that is the compliance that is required from the PPRA. But then to validate it, you need to put your FFC number, your Fidelity Fund Certificate number. And remember that number, it's not the 7-digit number, it starts with a year. That's the key to it. It starts with a year. And then I jumped into, POPI Act. The POPI Act, it's something that is extremely important because we're getting data on an ongoing basis. There were 8 different points, giving you these quick little headings. The first one, be accountable. The second one, collect only what you need. The third one, get the clear consent. The fourth one, protect that data. The fifth, it's your client's rights on that particular data. So whether they want it deleted or updated, make sure there's limited sharing with anybody. So don't just put it on a social group and say, hey, here it is. And then make sure that you keep the data for as long as you need, not any longer than that. And the last one, it's that integrity. Make sure that you report any breaches. Hey, I nearly got that right. Nearly got that right all the way through. So report any breaches to make sure that your integrity, that's my 2 thumbs up of getting that one right, that your integrity remains top of mind. So that is part 1 of our compliance, making sure that you remain compliant. And we want to make sure that each and every one of you do remain compliant, because without compliance, we don't have a business. That's the key to it. Without compliance, we do not have a business, because this is an industry that has compliance to it.